السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بعد أن أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أو كالذي مر على قرية وهي خاوية على عروشها قال أن يحيي هذه الله بعد موتها. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah the story of a man who passed by a town which had completely fallen into ruin. It had been completely destroyed. And he asked a question. He said, how will Allah bring this back to life after its death? Our topic today, inshallah, covers a very important and extremely relevant feeling that we all have, especially in the very difficult days that we are facing today. We're talking about the idea of refusing despair. The story of Al-Uzair, a prophet who passed through the city of Jerusalem and found it destroyed. And then he asked a question that we oftentimes find ourselves asking nowadays. When we see the corruption in Muslim countries, when we see an apartheid regime that is murdering tens of thousands of Muslims, men, women, and children, when we see our tax dollars funding this very murder, and we ask, أَنَّ يُحْيِي هَذِهِ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. How will Allah bring this back to life? How will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring our ummah back to life? Or in other words, how can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala possibly fix the situation that we're in? And the response, the message from Allah ta'ala is very clear. Don't lose hope. You and I, we're not allowed to lose hope. What we need to recognize is that every ummah, every civilization has a lifespan, very much like people. They start off small and weak, and then you grow and you grow and you reach the highest levels of strength and knowledge and technology. And then you get old and you start to weaken once again. Some civilizations, after generations of weakness, will come back to strength, and others will fall away into history, never to be remembered. Allahu alladhi khalaqakum min da'fin, thumma ja'ala min ba'di da'fin quwwa, thumma ja'ala min ba'di quwwatin da'fan wa shiba. يَخْلُقُ مَا يَشَاءُ وَهُوَ الْعَلِيمُ الْقَدِيرُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who creates you out of weakness, and then after weakness comes strength, and then made the strength back to weakness again, and white hair. He creates what He wills, and He is the all-knowing, the all-competent. Every ummah, every civilization, and every person lives through this cycle of weakness to strength and back to weakness again. But the Quran teaches us hope, that even when our ummah is in its weakest, even when we are helpless to stop one of our children from starving to death, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, do not lose despair. Do not lose hope. Do not fall into despair. That Allah can and will return Islam to its greatest heights again. The story starts at the time of Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam, where the Muslim ummah was at its very high point. Strength and technology and military power and palaces and a great kingdom and an army that Sulaiman alayhi salam had, an army of humans and jinn and animals and all working for Sulaiman alayhi salam. But then he passes away. And the next generation takes all of that technology, and instead of doing good with it, they use it for their entertainment. The saying, as we all know, is hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. And it's that cycle. After Sulaiman alayhi salam, the people spent their time in play. Unfortunately, like many of us today. Focusing on my entertainment. Focusing on having the nicest house and the nicest car and building my dunya. Forgetting my very purpose here. To be the vicegerent, to be the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world. And so what does this always lead to? When a society gets to a point where entertainment and play is the priority, what does it lead to? It leads to the civilization becoming weakened. And what often happens is that it either implodes internally or an external attack. In this case, it was an external attack. In the case of Jerusalem at the time, this came in the form of an army from Iraq, led by a man called Bughta-Nassar or Nebuchadnezzar. This is recorded history. This is called the Siege of Jerusalem. It took place in 587 BC. SubhanAllah, how history repeats itself. And the similarities are outstanding. Where Nebuchadnezzar's army destroys Jerusalem, destroys Al-Quds, and I mean destroyed. Everything that Prophet Sulaiman ﷺ had built, burnt to the ground. He killed the men, the women, the children, took 50,000 slaves back with them to Iraq. And he left the city of Jerusalem empty. But before he did that, whatever was left of infrastructure, he burnt it to the ground. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes all of this in the simple phrase, وَهِيَ خَاوِيَةٌ عَلَىٰ عُرُوشِهَا. Urushiha, this is the rooftops, essentially saying the rooftops are now on the ground. There is nothing left. In this time, Al-Uzair appears. And he is a prophet from Bani Israel. And he was well known, one of the most obedient servants of Bani Israel. The only person alive at the time who had memorized the Torah. And so Uzair is living at this time. He's not in Jerusalem. He's in a nearby city. He's a family man. He's a farmer. He has a wife. He has kids. And so Uzair, the prophet, receives a wahi, receives revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is commanding you to go to Jerusalem and to bring forth good and to build it and to teach the people. Okay, so he mounts his donkey, he packs some food and water for the trip, and he reaches Jerusalem and he finds nothing. Where is everyone? There's nobody here. There's no homes, there's no buildings, there's not even vegetation. They burnt it all to the ground. It's in ruins, it's desecrated, it's gone. The army of Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the city completely. But Al-Uzair didn't know this. They didn't have Twitter at the time, they didn't have any news. So what does he know? I know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded me to go do good in this city, but Ya Allah, there's no one here. There's nothing for me to do. What am I supposed to do? So now what? Do I go back? Would you go back? If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands you and I to do something, to do good, and I don't know where to start, what's my reaction? Do I say, Allah, you know what, I'm sorry, you didn't give me any clear directions. I needed a list of things to do. I'm not going to put the effort into it, so Allah, I'm just going to go back home. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Uzair to do good. I can't go back. This was a commandment from Allah. That was the situation he found himself in. But subhanAllah, it's the situation we find ourselves in as well, isn't it? The Prophet ﷺ teaches us, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ لا تأمرن بالمعروف ولا تنهون عن المنكر. I swear by the one who has my soul in his hands, you will enjoin in what is right and you will forbid what is wrong. You will go out there and do good. Or if you do not, then Allah will certainly soon send his punishment upon you. And then you will make dua and it will not be accepted. This is us. This is the Prophet ﷺ telling us, I swear by the one who has my soul in his hands, it is your job, it is our job, it is my job. And oftentimes, we hear, it's your job to do good, and every one of us feels like talking to the guy next to me. No, it is my job to go out there and to do what is within my hands of good. For if I don't, then the Prophet ﷺ promises us that a punishment will come upon us, and we will make dua, and it will not be accepted. How many of us have now been making dua for 2 years for this genocide to end and it's not accepted? What are we waiting on? Perhaps it's in our power. Making dua is not that's not the goal. It is performing an action. So we go back to Uzair's situation. Uzair arrives in Quds. He finds no people, no buildings, no food. What do? I have no idea what to do. All I know is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent me here and He commanded me to do good. I see Jerusalem destroyed. I see my brothers and sisters killed and I have no power to change that. And it seems like the more that I do, it doesn't make any difference. Where do I even start? This is how many of us feel today. So I'm going to give up and do nothing. No. The situation that we are in today, brothers and sisters, we see it repeated throughout history with many of the prophets. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands them to do what they can. And sometimes we won't get guidance. We won't get details. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands Nuh alayhi salam to build an ark. Wasna al-fulk. Build the ark. Where was he living? In a desert with mountains. And this is why وَكُلَّمَا مَرُّوا عَلَيْهِ مَلَأٌ مِّن قَوْمِهِ سَخِرُوا مِنْهِ. Every time someone passed by him, they'd make fun of him. They would mock him. What are you doing, Nuh? You're building an ark for what? We're living in a desert. Ya Allah, what do you mean build an ark? There's no ocean here. There's no water here. You're commanding me to do something, but I don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. I don't even see the tunnel. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, does He answer him? No. Just do it. Just put in the work. And you know what I'm going to do, Nuh? I'm going to flood that desert. I'm going to turn it into an ocean with waves as high as the mountains. You think that's difficult for me? Do we think it's difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring victory to Palestine in this time right now? Do we think that's too much for Him? Astaghfirullah, of course not. So why doesn't He do it? So what stops Him from doing that today? Hasn't enough suffering happened? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لَيْسَ لَكَ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ لَيْسَ لَكَ مِنَ الْأَمْرِ شَيْءٍ أَوْ يَتُوبَ عَلَيْهِمْ أَوْ يُعَذِّبَهُمْ. The decision is not for you. It's not up to us. The plan of what happens ultimately is not up to us. Whether He should punish people or forgive them. In this context, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about whether He will punish people or guide them. But the principle stands. It is not on us, brothers and sisters, the results. The striving, the work, the effort is on us. The results are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ سَعْيُهُمْ مَشْكُورًا. Our effort will be rewarded. Never in the Quran does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, put in the work and if you succeed, you get the reward, and if you fail, then you don't. Never. It's put in the work. Success and failure, up to me, not up to you. But are we putting in the work, brothers and sisters? That's the question for each one of us to ask ourselves. Not to ask the people around us, not to wait for the masjid to do something, or for CARE to do something, or for Turkey to do something, or for Qatar to do something. What am I doing? That's the question. Right now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding us, build that ark. Build that ark. I'm in the middle of a desert, doesn't matter. Build the ark. Ya Rabb, I don't see a solution for what's happening to our brothers and sisters in Gaza. Build the ark. Do what you can. Ya Allah, they are continuing to starve. We're watching it. We're seeing it live stream. It's heartbreaking. Every day we wake up in tears and go to sleep and we're watching this happen and we feel helpless and we're frustrated. Do what you can. Build the ark. I don't see the waves come. Build the ark. The waves, the flood, the victory is in Allah's hands. Speak to whomever you can. Protest if you're able to. Keep pushing, keep speaking up. Once we accept that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's judgment is the most wise, that He is Al-Hakim, and that there's no one better to lead the fate of mankind than Him, then we realize the question we should be asking ourselves is not, what's the ideal outcome? The question is, what can I do within my powers to advance the cause of Islam and to resist injustice? But akhi, what are you talking about? I'm sitting here. I'm not a senator. I'm not a president. I'm not a military leader. I'm just an 18-year-old kid. I'm just a mother of two. I'm just a regular 9-to-5 guy. You're talking to me about change the world? What on earth am I supposed to do? This is how many of us feel. And I've spoken to many youth over the past 2 years, and they're exactly saying this. I'm a 20-year-old kid. What do you mean change the world? What are you talking about? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responds to this as well. In Surah Al-Zalzalah, which we all learn when we are children, how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala start the chapter? إِذَا زُلْزِلَتِ الْأَرْضُ زِلْزَالَهَا. When the earth is shaken, this is on the day of judgment. وَأَخْرَجَتِ الْأَرْضُ أَثْقَالَهَا وَقَالَ الْإِنسَانُ مَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is illustrating this picture of mountains crumbling and the earth shaking, the world changing. And toward the end of the surah, what does He say? فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. So whoever of you, I'm talking about the world crumbling and mountains shaking, whoever of you can do an atom's worth of good, if I can do an atom's worth of good, you'll see it. We'll see it on our scales on the day of judgment. Do you see the contrast here between the beginning of the surah and the end? It's very intentional. The whole point is, all of us want to change the world. And if I can't do that, I say I'm helpless. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, change what you can. And if that's an atom's worth, you'll see that on the day of judgment. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ease the hardships on Muslims around the globe. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us maintain our faith and hope. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. We will continue with the story of Al-Uzair. And this feeling of not knowing where to start when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to do good. So we go back to Al-Uzair. Again, he's commanded to go to Jerusalem and to do good, and to build and to help people. And he gets there and the entire city is already destroyed, and he says, where do I start? There are no houses. So he figures, all right, no houses, I will build a house. Can you imagine this? I will build the first house until I figure out what the next step is. Zero direction. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not send an angel to say, no, here's the, let him work. Let us try. Can you imagine? He starts building. And so he spends an entire day building the first structure in the town. By the end of the day, he's exhausted, he's tired, and so he goes up to a mountain, he finds a cave to spend the night in. And he takes his donkey up with him, and he takes some food and some water up with him. And he looks down upon the city from the mountain, and he looks and he says, أَنَّا يُحْيِي هَذِهِ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهِ. How can Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bring back life to this place after its death? How's it going to get better? How's this even possible? All right, I did what I could. I'll keep building houses, I guess. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala causes him to sleep. فَأَمَاتَهُ اللَّهُ مِئَةَ عَامٍ ثُمَّ بَعَثَهُ. He caused him to sleep, to die for 100 years, and then brought him back. Nebuchadnezzar, the leader of the army that destroyed all of Jerusalem, in that time he had died. His army left. The people who had to flee their homes, they came back to Al-Quds, to Jerusalem. They started rebuilding. They found the entire city destroyed, except a small house that was half built, the house that Uzair started building. They said, maybe it's part of the ruins, just leave it. We're going to keep building. And then Uzair wakes up 100 years later. An angel is sent to him. كم لبثت? How long were you asleep? قال لبثت يوما أو بعض يوم. I slept maybe a day, half a day. قال بل لبثت 100 عام. No, you were asleep for 100 years. The angel tells him. And Uzair thinks, it doesn't make any sense. فانظر إلى طعامك وشرابك لم يتسنى. Look at your water and your food. It hasn't been touched. So Uzair says, all right, so then it hasn't been 100 years. My water is right here, my food is right here. So clearly I was right. I've only been out for like half a day. And the verse continues, وَانظُرْ إِلَى حِمَارِكَ. Now look at your donkey. وانظر إلى العظام كيف ننشزها ثم نكسوها لحما. The water, the food, was still right there. The donkey was a skeleton. And look at how we bring back the flesh onto the donkey. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala literally brings the flesh back on and brings the donkey back to life. Do we realize what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused time to pass for one thing and caused time to freeze for something else in the same cave. For the donkey, 100 years passed. For Uzair and his food, it was a few hours he was out. Why? Because Uzair, you asked a question. You don't think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can revive Jerusalem, can revive Al-Quds. You don't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can bring back greatness to Palestine, to Syria, to Kashmir, to Sudan. You don't think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can bring victory to our brothers and sisters in China, in India. You're asking, أَنَّا يُحْيِي هَذِهِ اللَّهُ بَعْدَ مَوْتِهَا. How can Allah bring back life to this place after its death? I will take your life, O Uzair, for 100 years and then bring you back, and I'll show you how I can stop and start time as I please. It's as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is boasting and only He has the right to boast. You think it's difficult for me to do this? Did you question my ability? وَلَنَجْعَلَكَ آيَةً لِلنَّاسِ. And we will make you a sign for people. And indeed He is a sign until today. And finally the verse ends with Uzair say, فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ قَالَ أَعْلَمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. When it was made known to him what happened, he said, I believe, indeed I believe that Allah is capable over all things. Now I know. Now I will never question what Allah can do. The question is, brothers and sisters, how much faith do you and I have that Allah can and will help us in our problems as an ummah or as an individual? And all of us are fighting our own battles, and all of us are going through our own problems. How much faith do I have in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He can help me? Allah brings forth the help, brothers and sisters, from the place you would least expect it. From the middle of the problem, He brings forth the help. قُلْنَا يَا نَارُ كُونِي بَرْدًا وَسَلَامًا عَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ. Out of the fire that Ibrahim is thrown into, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings peace and coolness. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَى أُمِّ مُوسَى أَنْ أَرْضِعِيهِ فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives wahi to the mother of Musa, throw a newborn child into the river, and out of this flowing river, I will bring him peace and security, and I'll have him raised in the very home of his enemy. His enemy will raise him. SubhanAllah. It's again as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us, you have no idea. You have no idea what I can do. And we don't think He can help us with our problems. When we understand this, only then can we have the right kind of relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the story of Uzair. Can Allah bring back life to something when it is weak, dead, and gone? It is a resounding yes. But there's one last note, one pivotal last note. When I'm facing a problem, either me as an individual or an ummah, and I don't know the solution, not just do I not know the solution, I don't know where to start. I'm just one person. I don't know where to start. Build that house. And Uzair is sent to Jerusalem. There's nothing to do, and he figures, I'll start building a house. So we can weep over the situation of our ummah, and we do every day. But that cannot stop us from doing what we can. And never forget that when we see our brothers and sisters and their lives taken from them, we can never forget, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. Do not take the people who were killed in the way of Allah, do not consider them dead. بَلْ أَحْيَاءٌ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. They are alive with their Lord being blessed. No day of judgment for them. No hisab for them. No waiting for them. Straight with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَرِحِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُمُ اللَّهُ مِنْ فَضْلِهِ. They are rejoicing in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has bestowed upon them of His bounty. Our hearts break when we see a child, and these terrorist monsters snipe this child in the head right after he picks up some food for his family. Perhaps many of us have kids the same age as this child, and it hits you different when you're a parent. We can cry over him, but know that he's not crying. Know that he's rejoicing with Allah. فَرِحِينَ بِمَا آتَاهُمْ. He's happy with what Allah has given him. And any of us would be lucky to to have a hereafter where He does. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring back hope in our hearts. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give victory to our oppressed brothers and sisters around the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who condemn evil and violence wherever we see it. اللهم انصر اخواننا المستضعفين في كل مكان. اللهم هب لنا من لدنك عملا صالحا يقربنا إليك. Ya Allah, grant us beneficial actions to bring us closer to you, Ya Allah. Put us to work, Ya Allah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroy the oppressors, Ya Allah. Grant freedom to our families in Gaza and the occupied lands of Palestine. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم وأقم الصلاة. Excuse me, just a very quick announcements here, apologies. Brother Abdul Kabir had a stroke in the ICU for the last 4 days. The family has requested dua for his recovery. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him a speedy recovery and grant his family patience. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen.